great to be with you and all your listeners, and certainly these are interesting times, but great to be with you.
How go the talks on the Hill? Is Nancy Pelosi leading us on, or is she really negotiating?
Well, she's more leading us on than negotiating, but it does look like that at least there's a break, and I can tell you that I'm having discussions with some of her staff today, along with Chairman Shelby on the Republican side for appropriations. She has not moved a lot, Hugh, and as you know, this is not your first, second, or third rodeo. You get to see it all the time. You're one of the most experienced people in terms of knowing the politics on Capitol Hill, and so her public rhetoric on how she's been willing to make compromises doesn't match the actual facts, but we're hopeful in the next 48 hours or so that there'll be some breakthroughs where she actually starts negotiating. She hasn't really been negotiating. It's been more Secretary Mnuchin making compromises and trying to work through some language that we can get passed in a bipartisan fashion.
Now, Chief of Staff Meadows, you've been talking to the president a lot. I've had all morning long, I didn't intend to do this, I talked to callers who did not vote for the president in 2016 and are voting for him now, including some who were at the rally in Erie last night. I'm kind of astonished by how many people have called in to say, I didn't vote for him for X, Y, and Z reason. I'm very much with him now. Are you viewing the voting surge as a positive thing? Because there is a huge early voting surge, and I'm beginning to think it might portend a very good development for the president.
Well, Hugh, I do see that. Actually, we're looking from state to state, and I'll be frank, the mail-in absentee ballot requests were very troubling in terms of the number of voters that seem to be going the other way. The early voting numbers have been very, very promising, and I think it's like you're saying. I say it's people that have never voted for the president before. It's Democrats, unaffiliated, and Republicans that are saying, listen, he built the economy, he can do it again. He's not a politician, he's an executive that gets things done. I may not like his style, but I sure like his results, and that's what we're seeing. The enthusiasm. We were in Erie last night, just incredible. A little bit of flurries in the air, and just thousands and thousands of people out there wanting to hear the message of hope and prosperity that is coming their way.
Now, Chief of Staff Meadows, obviously the Attorney General works for the president. If the president wants to, he can direct Bill Barr to appoint a special counsel to look into the Biden email situation, both Bidens and whether or not any laws were broken. I believe this is one of the few times in my life I believed a special counsel is necessary for this reason. If the president wins, people will believe any prosecution brought as a result of these emails will be a revenge prosecution. If he loses, they will believe that anything that doesn't happen will be because of a cover-up. Have you discussed with the president the need for a special counsel for these emails?
I certainly have. That's not to suggest that there's not an investigation going on now. We would not have visibility into that. Obviously, we could have, but for part of that aspect of trying to be neutral and not put our hand on Lady Justice's scales, we have not looked into that in terms of what may or may not be happening now. And as you know, the FBI and DOJ, they don't confirm whether there's an investigation that's ongoing or not. That being said, a special prosecutor being assigned is certainly something that has merit. It's also something that has been considered. It's not necessarily at the top of our priority list in this last 13 days, but as we're looking at that, we think an independent special counsel might be the best medicine for this. Not that anything would come out before November 3rd, nor should that be an expectation that any of your listeners would hear, but it would show the independence that you were talking about, Hugh.
And I believe whatever the result, if it was a special counsel, would be trusted, and otherwise one half of the country will not trust whatever happens with the Biden emails unless it comes from a special counsel. So I think it's the ideal situation. Have you discussed it with the Attorney General, Chief of Staff Meadows?
Uh, Really, my discussions with the Attorney General have been more about making sure that whatever we do, that we do it with an impartial view. I don't get into any further in terms of what discussions I may have had with Attorney General Barr. Honestly, I've tried to let him do his job independent of any direct contact from the White House. So most of what my conversations have been with Attorney General Barr have been more on some of the ongoing operations to stop gun violence in Chicago and St. Louis and areas like that. So me weighing in with him on that particular issue is not something I've done, nor something that I plan to do.
Now, I want to switch to Frank Fahrenkopf and the Debate Commission. Bob Dole has told us every member of the Debate Commission is an ever-Trumper. I'm not surprised by that. I had counseled against doing anything through the commission earlier. You were not part of the executive team when the president agreed to the Debate Commission's rules. Does the president regret allowing them to have the role that they've taken and that they have abused?
Yeah, I think he does. I think they have abused it, Hugh. You're exactly right. Your counsel should have been listened to. Even as recent as yesterday, they were trying to make changes to the debate format and putting up glass between individuals. I mean, just a number of things that may seem minor, but it changes the whole atmosphere, tone, and tenor of how the candidates will engage. But we continue to see, interestingly enough, the topics get picked that are bent to the left. Just the way that it's all structured with the moderators and how they're chosen, it is troubling. And you want a debate to be fair and equal. And most of the debate commission has put forth a plan that does exactly the opposite.
Now, I would ask you to pass on to the president. He can trust Kristen Welker. I know what her family is, Democrats, but I've known Kristen for a while. He can trust Kristen Welker, but I don't know if they can trust the debate commission on the mute because they've been so one-sided. And I don't like the topic selection because they're not going to talk about the Abraham Accords. Mr. Chief of Staff, how can we go through 3 debates and not spend half the time on China, Iran, and the Abraham Accords? How can we do that?
Well, they should do that, and Hugh, you're exactly right, and I appreciate you telling me about your colleague that's going to be the moderator. I will share that directly with the president. That's actually a good endorsement coming from someone that I certainly respect. You've had a long history of speaking the truth. Here's the interesting thing, Hugh. When we look at the unbelievable foreign policy accomplishments and where we are, the last 4 years, you can put them up, historically speaking, to almost any administration when you start to look at the things that have been accomplished. And people that when candidate Donald Trump ran for office, they said, well, his weakest aspect is his foreign policy chops. Well, the results speak for themselves. The Abraham Accords that obviously are not just historic, but they're in a context of just being almost unbelievable. Where people have promised that for a long time, but it doesn't stop there. It's the relationships with China, with NATO, with actually holding our allies accountable, but making sure that they're still our friends, and making sure that our adversaries understand that they need to respect us and fear us, that we just don't apologize for America's greatness.
A last question, Mr. Chief of Staff. Mark Meadows is my guest. The president gets to ask the vice president questions tomorrow night. I would like to know if the vice president is going to move the embassy from Jerusalem back to Tel Aviv. I would like to know if he's going to push Israel to de-annex the Golan Heights. And I really hope we get an answer on court packing, which would destroy the republic. Does the president intend to use his time to ask questions that maybe are not on the question set?
Well, let me just tell you, those 3 questions, I'm just jotting notes down as I listen to them. Maybe, Hugh, your fingerprints might have a little bit to do with some of the questions that get asked. I can tell you this, whether it's moving the embassy to Jerusalem or recognizing the Golan Heights, those are things that were promises made and promises kept by this president. The court packing, we know what Joe Biden's going to do. He's going to try to put in his leftist agenda. He's going to blame it on the fact that we will confirm Amy Coney Barrett, a very qualified judge, to the Supreme Court, and suggest that that justifies putting 4 or 5 new leftist judges on there. So all of those questions are certainly appropriate. The problem is we won't have enough time to ask all the questions that Joe Biden needs to answer.
Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, thank you for joining me this morning. I greatly appreciate it. Back to the fray. Good luck with Nancy Pelosi. I don't envy you that task.
All right, thanks, you. Great to be with you.